Hello, everybody. This is Samir Azizi, and you're listening to Azizi Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'd just like to once again ask you to subscribe to this podcast whenever you have the opportunity. You are probably listening to this podcast on one of the apps, the popular ones, the Spotify's and Apple Podcasts and everything else. I've noticed a lot of Samsung podcasts lately started listening, so that was interesting. So yeah, if you could just please subscribe and hopefully rate this podcast with 5 stars or thumbs up, I would highly appreciate it. The last 2 episodes were accepted as it was quite a success. I like the feedback. I like the stats on that. I like that it, as always, went international. I appreciate everyone who is listening to me nonstop with all these years, all over the world, including the country that I'm going to be talking about extensively today. In fact, I'm going to dedicate this whole episode to this country. This is the country where I was born, the Republic of Kazakhstan. So thank you to everyone in Kazakhstan who is tuning in and listening to this podcast. I highly, highly appreciate it, especially to my day one listeners. Anyways, today is August 30th, 2022. I went to Kazakhstan for a vacation in the middle of August, in the middle of this month, and I came back, I think 3 days ago. I'm already back in Toronto. I'm already back at work. It's kind of I'm fighting the jet lag. I'm trying to take the smart approach. I'm regulating my sleep. I'm regulating my food intake and my water intake. I'm assisting myself a little bit with some melatonin to regulate my sleep. So far it's working out pretty well. I like this jet lag feeling, especially when it's playing in my favor, when I am able to wake up at like 5 a.m. and accomplish some of my tasks beforehand, which is always great. So hopefully I can extend this streak for as many days as possible. Usually I sleep and I go to sleep like super late again and wake up late. But in any case, so this morning I woke up at 5 a.m. and I put some notes down about Kazakhstan and what I want to talk about. And to be honest, frankly, I'm just going to say it right away. I am about to say a bunch of very kind of like hyped up things about this country. And I think I just need to give this alert that I will probably be either biased or something about me will be sentimental. So I wouldn't take my words as some sort of kind of a green light to make some actions, right? To get some things going. But I hope this a little monologue of mine, a little verbal essay will maybe inspire and motivate some of you to simply research this country, because there are some interesting things that are happening right now there, and I feel like it's in a very unique position, this country, Kazakhstan, which is located in Central Asia. So again, I will be biased. I'm probably going to say a lot of good things about it, and I hope this will inspire you to research it and hopefully visit it and see for yourself. And then, based on your own experiences, you can perhaps make some decisions or draw some conclusions, and perhaps you can invest in it or not invest, but just go there as a tourist or anything else. But I came back and I was so inspired, and I'm still inspired. I was so hyped up. That's why I wanted to wait for a little bit. I wanted to wait for 3 days so that I can look at the situation with more of a clear view rather than just pure optimism. And frankly, I go to Kazakhstan once a year, usually. Sometimes maybe once every 2 years. Even during COVID, I went there like November 2020. I was already in Kazakhstan. And and I always come back from Kazakhstan, whether if I'm coming back to the United States or if I'm coming back to Canada. I come back as a different view. I'm like a different person. It's almost as if I'm going on some sort of a spiritual journey. It's almost as if I'm always joking. I'm unplugging from the matrix, and I'm going to this, imaginary, or like actually not imaginary, like the real place, like Zion or something they have this in the Matrix movie where everything is real, where emotions are real, where, like the dancing and all of that, like they show in the Matrix, like stuff is real. And that's for me is Kazakhstan. I need to unplug from this Western world and go back to, my roots, go back to Central Asia and just see where I come from, see where I grew up, see where my family is and where my friends are. And again, right now, all my family and a lot of my bestest, better friends are in Kazakhstan. And for me, it's always a special trip. But something was different this time, and I'd like to dive in a little bit into that and how I experienced that and what I saw when I traveled there. Just a little bit of and again, I'm not gonna dive into like a lot of stats or whatever. I just kind of like wanted to convey some of my emotions and what I saw and some of my thoughts. Kazakhstan, just to give a little bit of a preamble, Kazakhstan used to be a part of the Soviet Union. Before that, it was part of the Russian Empire. There's a lot of debates on that and yada yada, but basically it's a former Soviet republic. It's located in Central Asia. People of Kazakhstan are called Kazakhs. There's also a lot of other population there, including Germans, Ukrainians, and Russians. And the population of those minorities are decreasing right now, and it's predominantly becoming the monogamous. Monogamous, is that a word? I know there's like a mono ethnicity. That's probably the right word for that. The language of Kazakhstan is Kazakh. Kazakh language is part of Turkic languages, and so basically, there's often like when a Kazakh person hears Turkish person talk, they kind of understand each other. I don't know how to explain that. Basically, the same language family. All right, so that's that. And Kazakhstan was got its independence in 1991. There was all that thing, the whole Soviet Union collapse and all of that. And fast forward, it's an oil-rich country. Oil exports very rich with natural resources, and Kazakhstan still doing, but like overall is doing pretty great due to the natural resources, due to the export of natural resources, especially oil. And I guess of all the former Soviet Union republics, excluding Russia, and maybe Ukraine too, Kazakhstan is one of the richest countries. Like, for example, in comparison to Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, even Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan was always kind of like the G, like it was the country. It was the biggest country. I think it's the 9th biggest country in the world, 8th. I don't know. We always like show off that we're so big. Although the population is 18 million people, which for that kind of size of the country, it's not a lot of people. Kazakhstan borders China to the east and Russia to the north. I think it's the longest border in the world, the longest like ground border I think in the world between Kazakhstan and Russia. And then there's like a bunch of former old Soviet Union republics like Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, I think, and Kyrgyzstan that are also kind of bordering each other. Although I'm not sure if Turkmenistan actually borders it. Anyways, let's not ponder on my illiteracy in geography. Like I'll take that L if I made a mistake. So yeah, Kazakhstan was always at a good level, and and I was born exactly when it got at the same year when it got its independence in 1991 as well. So it's kind of funny to grow up and sort of you are the same age as the country you grew up in, and you are able to see like the transformation of the country as well as your own personal transformation. But I don't want to I want to digress from that. So for the uninitiated, there was like the crazy 90s. It also got Kazakhstan, but also it was like this roaring 2000s. Where money was flowing like back and forwards, and then there was always like this recession in 2008. And fast forward, so Kazakhstan was doing relatively great. I would say obviously it could have done better. There's a lot of poor regions in Kazakhstan. a lot of regions that are not developed well. But overall, the cities are doing fantastic. If you want to listen to some of my earlier episodes in Russian, there's some people from Kazakhstan that I'm interviewing. It would be very interesting, I think, for everyone to listen if you understand. But anyways, I just want to kind of fast forward to January 2022. Something happened in Kazakhstan that no one actually expected. There was a conflict on the grounds of I think expensive gasoline or something like that. Yeah, I think it was the expensive gasoline in the I believe western regions of the country. I might be wrong there, but basically it started as some sort of a protest, and then it kind of grew into a mass revolution, kind of like uprising in Kazakhstan, which never happened before. Maybe even in maybe in 1991, but yeah, never in the modern history of Kazakhstan there was so much mass destruction and revolution and people protesting and running around and looting. So that's some sort of thing that happened. So basically, again, I don't want to dive into this, but it was a politically motivated thing where it looked like there was kind of a motivation to change power structure in Kazakhstan, and it looked like it came from within, but still no one really knows. Long story short, it was suppressed. The republics, the countries of the Union, I guess the CIS or something like that. I forgot what it's called, but all the former republics, not all but like some of the former republics, Soviet republics and countries, including Russia, came in to help Kazakhstan to kind of like make sure that everything is under control. But still, there was this thing after that. It was a shock. Again, I just want to underline that was one of the most shocking things that happened to the country. A lot of businesses were destroyed. People died. There was protests and a lot of shootings. A lot of people also died because of that. It was a very tragic event, and it was also tragic just for a lot of my friends and for my family as well. It was just like something really devastating. So I just wanted to underline that it was a serious big deal. And I think it also kind of attracted the world attention. It got the world attention as well, especially because Russia involved and all of that. But that's kind of like it kind of raised this new thing where Kazakhstan still went through some sort of a transformation. There was like an awakening, I would say, where people finally, it almost like anecdotally, I hear on the streets people say, well, there was always something brewing in the nation. People were angry, and it felt like they finally like released that anger, and now there is this thing called Kazakhstan 2.0, and this is like a new step in the history of Kazakhstan where the president of Kazakhstan, who is actually well liked by the mainstream, I would say, population of this country, is finally able to get full control of the country, and I guess propose some reforms and I would say let go some of the people in the government and stuff like that. I don't want to dive into this because I'm not really I would say an expert in the subject of politics of the region. So just very surfacely, like people are optimistic about decrease of corruption and all of that. So that's kind of like just a preamble what happened just recently. And then the second thing is what's happening right now in Kazakhstan. Not in Kazakhstan, but like what Kazakhstan is living through right now is obviously the conflict, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and I just want to also take a pause and underline that this is a very tragic event, and it affects a lot of people, including myself as someone of a Ukrainian descent. And it's definitely a very sensitive issue because it's ongoing. So I don't want to dive into that, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Kazakhstan is kind of located right there. It's very close to, obviously, to Ukraine, to Russia, but also to Ukraine. Like when I was a kid in 2004, my grandpa and I and my uncle. We went to Ukraine for a kind of like a vacation for a summer camp. I remember that. I went to Kherson, Nikolaev, Kiev, Odessa. Where else I was? Somewhere else. But anyways, Ukraine was a beautiful country. I was really impressed. But that's the situation. I remember we took a train and it only took us like 3 days to get there. On the plane, I think it's only 3 hours to get to Kiev. But the point is, Kazakhstan is really close to that conflict. And obviously people are very concerned. So, with that said, when I came there, when I came to Kazakhstan in the middle of this month, I expected the situation to be very dire in Kazakhstan. I expected a lot of anxiety. I expected a lot of PTSD from the January events and from the conflict that's happening like not next to their borders, but very close to the country. But I was surprised to see, and again, I went to Almaty, so my experience will be, I would say, only about Almaty, which is the biggest city in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a large country, so I don't want to speak for the whole country. So everything what I'm going to say next is only purely based on my experience in one city. And again, I guess a lot of people probably know that one city is not determined for the whole. It's not a representation for the whole country, but it's definitely a presentation for the current state of the most modern and I would say relatively like secular and liberal region of the country. So what I saw there is a lot of optimism and a lot of kind of upbeat attitude. It's not like everyone has like this smile on their face. People in Kazakhstan don't smile. They smile when they're with their friends. They smile when they're, having a good time. But it's not like you go in California and everyone's looking at you and like giving you a little nod and a smile of approval. Like there's no such thing. And but it's not something that you need to see just to feel that everything is kind of like going at its own pace, and there's no this kind of weird of uncertainty. There's no that feeling. Like I didn't feel that. And again, a lot of it is just like my biased view because, well, I'm on vacation, so I came there to party and to be with my family and friends. But at the same time, it did feel different. One of the things that happened to me, or I would say never, did not happen this time, I was not stopped and frisked by the police in Kazakhstan. And I've been routinely stopped and frisked by the police ever since I was 14 years old in Kazakhstan. So I kind of got used to it and all of that. It's not like a good experience, whatever, but I'm always kind of like, being stopped and stuff. So I don't know. I always kind of expect it. And, there's a little chat with the cops. Sometimes they will pat you down or stuff. This happens, whatever. Like and I understand the realities of the world and of the situation, especially in that region. And obviously, for those who don't know, I do look different. I do not look like a Kazakh person. But I digress. Anyway, so that did not happen. So that was very kind of cool and surprising. And so, so the first thing when I came to Kazakhstan, the first thing that I did is I went to the bank to update my debit card. The bank is kind of like a jewel of Kazakhstan itself from the technological point of view. The bank it's called Kaspi Bank, or used to be called Kaspiyski. Kaspi in honor of the Caspian Sea, by the way. So that's something that a lot of people who do not understand, who just came to Kazakhstan, or haven't been there for a long time or something, it's something that's you have to talk about it once you come to the country. But I'll talk about it a little bit later. Anyways, so the one thing that I've noticed in Kazakhstan is that in the bank that I saw is that there's a lot of Russian people from Russia, and again there's like Russian people from Kazakhstan, who are Kazakhstanis and of Russian descent, and then you can see that there are Russian people from Russia, but it's not like I saw it in them, but they identify themselves to the workers of the bank. They're like, oh, we are a citizen of Russian Federation, and we would like an account. We would like to open an account at Kaspi Bank. And that kind of thing, you see it pretty much constantly in the bank right now, at any banks, and you see it every day. And the bank employees, they're not being surprised or anything. Why I say surprised is because like a year ago, you would never see that. That's just weird. What's with the Russian citizens come to Kazakhstan opening a bank account at the local, like at the not international but purely internal bank, for that it's kind of like Wells Fargo of Kazakhstan, right? So now that's like a reality. So the first thing of it that you realize is that Kazakhstan is now hosting a lot of, I would say, I don't know if you can call them refugees, but they're basically, I would say, business owners or people who work for international partners who from Russia who need to accept payments internationally, and they cannot do that due to the sanctions. And so they come to Kazakhstan and they open local bank accounts so that they can receive payments from different international partners. So that's one thing. So it's kind of like a weird situation where in Kazakhstan right now is hosting Ukrainian refugees and Russian, I would say, like temporary immigrants, I would say. And that's kind of just that statement that I told you kind of makes you like makes my head scratch, right? It makes sense to me, like I understand what it is, but you cannot really I don't think anyone from outside that area, like the region of former Soviet Union, can understand that this weird situation. So anyways, so that was like the first thing that I've noticed, and I was like, oh, like, so this is real, so this is happening. Obviously I heard about it. I heard that this is happening, but like during my first day, I was able to see that right away. And those Russian citizens were just like, two dudes, I think maybe my age or maybe a little younger, just doing their thing. They're trying to like do business or something. So it's just like, wow, like it's, just some guys basically. So this legend was true. Apparently, a lot of people are there right now. I also heard that they're going to like Armenia or Georgia or other countries, but that's kind of like a thing now. Everyone who's making like big money, according to Russian standards, obviously working for abroad countries, and yes, so everyone who is actually leaving country is living in Russia is relatively well off. It's people in their 20s, like 25 and up, mostly men, and they have jobs that is connected to digital world. It's either digital advertisers or some traders or whatever. So that's the kind of human capital that is leaving Russia right now. But I digress. Anyways, I just wanted to say like this was an interesting story. I don't want to like. There's nothing else to say about this, but that was interesting. I was like, oh wow, like a true derivative of the conflict is actually like right here in front of my eyes. Like that was highly unusual event. And then what is Kaspi? So I'm getting this card. I had to actually get this new card because my old card expired. But apparently because I got myself a new Kazakh ID last year, I had to talk to the manager again so that they can like reboot my system and whatsoever. So anyways, I had to wait for like an hour. There was a huge line. But the funny thing is, once they approve you, they take you to a special vending machine, and then they will print. They are printing your new debit card exactly the same as the debit card that is currently in your pocket. They print it right in front of you within 60 seconds. Can you imagine? I recently ordered a card for my Canadian bank because my other card got stolen or something like that. And it took them 10 days to deliver this card to me. While in Kazakh bank, they printed it out right in front of my eyes, like this plastic card with my name engraved in it in 60 seconds. And that really blew my mind. It was so quick. So what is actually Kaspi? Kaspi is this crazy system that really, like when I hear stories about Singapore, I feel like Kaspi is something that was inspired by that or some technology that was brought from that. Kaspi is not only a bank, it's kind of like a Google of Kazakhstan. It's this application where you can, first of all, it's like an online store. They have all kinds of products there that you can buy online, and you can buy them in installments with zero interest down. But the coolest thing about Kaspi as well is that you can also, through their app, you can pay all the bills that Kazakhstan has to offer: phone bills, electricity bills, gas bills, internet bills. Everything is in there. The app is so great. You can, like, it's like, in terms of UX and UI, like, I'll talk about this later, but this is like way, and I'm seriously meaning this is way better than anything you've seen in the United States or Canada or maybe even like Europe or whatever. Like, I know it from my personal experience because I'm using these apps here every day. And the way Kaspi is just like, their app is so great, so quickly, so smooth, so well designed. And also, of course, it has the 2FA, two-factor authentications. It also kind of like, it scans your face too. It has your face on it and all of that. So that's something that it's a trade-off. So I'll talk about it. But anyway, so you can pay your bill on that as well. And moreover, you can actually check if you owe any taxes to the government. And you can pay your taxes right away through Kaspi with couple, swipes and stuff. You can go to your account, basically, to your profile or dashboard, and see if you have any taxes that you owe or you need to pay any taxes, and you can just pay it right away from your Kaspi account without, like, for example, here dealing with IRS, going to their portal or like sending them a check and all of that. Everything is digitized. On top of that, Kaspi, apparently, that's something that I got shown, they showed me recently, is that you can go and look up your documents. They have information on your ID. Somehow, like, they're connected to the database, like the Kazakh DMV. Somehow, like, they have that kind of connection. And so if you go there and you will type in your ID number, they will pull up your birth certificate. They will pull up your national ID. They will pull up your driver's license, and it's literally a scanned copy of it. How did they scan it? I have no clue. Apparently, it's in the system somewhere. But it's basically a digital document. And one of the anecdotes that I heard is like, oh, if you're in the club and you don't have your ID, you just go to Kaspi and show that little thing to the bouncer, and he will accept it as like a form of ID. So Kazakhstan has implemented already a digital ID where you don't even have to carry your documents. I'm not sure if this is being implemented like countrywide or whatever. I'm not sure if you can like show it to the policeman, but I think you can show it to your policeman, and if during like a traffic stop or something, and then it will work. Anyway, so that's something that's happening right now, but that's not even it yet. One thing that is highly being implemented this year in comparison to last year, it's like my friend says, Kazakhstan right now is the QR code land. Everything is QR code. And last time when I went to Kazakhstan during the COVID situation, they have implemented QR codes everywhere already. So you have to scan QR codes, and you will be shown whether you can enter the building or not. That was before it's been implemented in Canada, because Canada tried to do the same thing. And Kazakhstan was one of the first countries who implemented the vaccine passport. What do you think about vaccine passport is a different story, or what do I think about it? But the fact that Kazakhstan was actually one of the first countries who implemented the vaccine passports, and moreover, they actually worked well, whether that's scary to you or not, but it's worked. And now, basically, fast forward to this year, Kaspi has implemented this new system where you can basically, with your phone, tap on the button that's, like a little QR code button, and you can just pay with a QR code at any business that you go to. And any business right now, like a restaurant, like a car wash, anything, has like a Kaspi machine. And they all have their own personalized business QR code that they give you to scan to pay. And all you need to do is to scan this QR code with the Kaspi app, confirm your payment, and the payment is being processed instantly. And I mean instantly. Like faster than debit card, fast, like all those kind of like louding things, like even like 3-second loud, like all of that, nada. The payment goes instantly. Like the checks being, it's the speed of this QR code payment is crazy. On top of that, they're doing the usual, like you can send the payment via a cell phone number and all of that. So all those things, it's sort of, I don't know, it's incredible. And the funny part is, I came to Kazakhstan with my old friend who I went to high school with. He was also here in Canada. He was actually a guest on my podcast as well. He was so impressed by that because he hasn't been in the country for 6 years. He's also from Kazakhstan. And just to see how he was surprised, he even said, like, I even went to like a little market, I would say, with like a veggie market on the street, and he was able to buy a watermelon with that freaking QR code. That's how like this is how mainstream that is. Another funny story is I was sitting with my friend at the restaurant, and there was some beggars coming in to ask for money. Usually they say like, oh, it's like a grandma or something. This time it was a grandma. It was just like, oh, I don't have money. And so I gave her some spare change. I had some coins from the other day, but my friend didn't have any coins or money, and he said like, in cash, and he said like, sorry, I don't have one. And the grandma told him like, oh, it's okay, you can just transfer some cash to my Kaspi account. And so she basically, and he couldn't say anything because obviously he has Kaspi. Everyone has Kaspi. So he had to pull out his phone, and she dictated, the phone. And again, it was a grandma. She was a Kazakh grandma. So it's like, you gotta help the grandma, the old lady. And she dictated her number, and he had to like transfer some cash to her. That was kind of hilarious. But I mean, can you imagine the beggars telling you, can you send me a wire transfer? But yeah, that's the world we live in right now, or that's the world they are living right now in. So that's something that is a positive thing. That's pretty cool. It's something that United States doesn't have. It's something that Canada doesn't have. I'm pretty sure Singapore is like that, because that's what I'm hearing lately about Singapore. But of course, there's reasons to that, right? Because if it's that good, why America doesn't have it, right? But I mean, the first thing comes to mind is obviously privacy. Obviously, you give up a lot of your personal information in Kazakhstan, where you are not in control of your information, and the information is being like passed from the government to private business like Kaspi, and because of that, they are able to swiftly, create all these transactions, swiftly create all these databases that you can then use. So it's a huge utility, but if you're gonna think about like you have to just assume that you're being watched, that all your information is being passed around. So it's surveillance state. It's a classic surveillance state. I wouldn't say it's some sort of a deep state surveillance. It's pretty transparent. Like if you want to dig deeper, you understand that that it's that you have to give up something to gain all this convenience. So this is So this is something. This is like one of the huge things. Another thing about Kazakhstan right now is just in comparison to when I was growing up there. Right now, I'm coming back there, and there is some sort of like a renaissance of culture. And I've been talking to other people in Kazakhstan, and what they told me is that with Kazakh people, like right now, I see there's like rock and roll concerts, but everything is in Kazakh. Everything is like cultural. Everything is ethnic. Everyone's so proud of that. And what I've been told is like before, people were sort of like, I wouldn't say ashamed, but they wouldn't like show it off, your background, your cultural background. But right now, people are slowly understanding, and everyone would say like, oh, well, the Western countries, United States, Canada, all those are the things that we want to be like. This is what we want to be like. We want to listen to 50 Cent like that, like I was listening to, like, and still listening, by the way, huge fan, 50. Like Eminem and all of that. Like this was the Western culture we were sucking in when I was like a sponge when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. It was like West, and even if not West, like it was Russia, something in Russian, like Russian rap, or you speak Russian, or like Russian artists would come in. It was like that. But right now there is this renaissance of understanding your own culture and actually being proud of being, who you are. Understanding that actually that's pretty cool that, we are of certain culture, non-Western culture. It's Central Asian. People are trying to go back to their roots. They're trying to dig deeper and understand where they're coming from. There's a lot of like expositions, even the songs in Kazakh. Before, Kazakh songs were always like something like a folk, something of a pop that was listened to like in other cities, not very urbanized cities or something like that. It was like kind of like that. It was like there. it wasn't really a city music. City music was either English or Russian, but right now, like when you listen to the music, listen to the beats, like for example, check out Irina Kairatovna. That's a classic one. It's already kind of like an outdated one, but like the Kazakh language in the music is being so it's being so expanded right now. And right now I'm seeing all these rock bands, and there's in Kazakh, and it's beautiful, and it's just like super cool. So you see this shift where people are trying to get back to that culture. They're trying to take ownership of that. They're being proud of that. So like culturally, that thing, just like the understanding of your own nationality or understanding of your own roots and ethnicity, it's kind of cool. It goes with that. It kind of, but also like it comes with like there's narrative that everything that was Russian. There's a lot of words right now being used like colonialism, imperialism. There's like a lot of discussion like that. Before it was like kind of like it's like people would call it like a nationalism rhetoric, but right now people are not afraid to talk about it like more out loud, and they call like everything in terms of like a Russian world. They call it like the colonizing, the colonialism culture, or imperialism. Imperialism is something that I think is more, I would say, being used because for obvious reasons. But anyways, there's like in addition to like the realizing of pride for your own identity, there's also a pushback towards like the old world and towards the the Russian side of things. And goes without saying, it's well, actually no, I'd like to also mention that what I've noticed, what's funny about Kazakhstan right now, with everything that is happening in the world right next to it, right next to the country. Like in Canada, I see a lot of emotions were flying when the war started, and everyone was like, right now it's kind of died down a little bit, but like the rhetoric was very, very harsh and dangerous, and it was just like very aggressive. And given, overall attitude of Kazakhstan, I would say like just Kazakh people towards Russia historically, I would expect to see the same thing in Kazakhstan. But and there is definitely there's really no approval of what's happening in terms of in the world from Kazakhstan, from Kazakhs. I don't like there, in my opinion, I don't think there is like someone siding with Russia right now. But what's happening is right now they're really, people try not to talk about it. I tried to ask people questions about like, hey, so what do you think about that and this, and like how do people talk about it? And they told me the same thing. Like at the beginning, the emotions were flying so high, and you couldn't have a normal conversation because everyone had skin in the game in this thing. And I'm not going to explain why you have to be from that region to understand why you have skin in the game in this. But eventually people understood that this is something that is so out of control. This is something that is so complicated that it's better, try to push that conversation away and not talk about it until you absolutely have to, or until you have absolute, sorry, I have a phone call here. If you're comfortable to talk about it with people. Sorry about that. I had a phone call, and now that I replied to it, answered it, I want to continue. So anyways, yes, so the situation is it's very neutral, and I was very surprised by it, how people try to preserve this rhetorical piece. Like, I don't know, it was just very surprised. I did not expect it. I don't want to comment whether like I agree with it or not, but it was just something that I did not expect. But it's weird to see a country in Central Asia being so, I would say, I don't know, like the rhetorics were not flying as high as like in Europe and stuff, or in Western countries, for better or worse. But that's something that I noticed, and overall I saw, again, back to this kind of attitude of people. Everyone was just chilling. Everyone was doing their thing, and going back to how I spoke with my friends and what I spoke about. Every time I speak with someone in Kazakhstan, whether it's my friends or family, it's so funny. Everyone is trying to figure out how to make more money, how to create a business. Everyone has this entrepreneurial mindset. And it's kind of funny because lately in Canada, in the United States, and I'm kind of making fun of that with my friends who also live here, they're also immigrants, is that lately you have this feeling in Canada and in the United States, you have this feeling of lack of motivation. There's no fun in something that you do. You're just kind of like in this waiting mode, and that's in large because of the economy. You understand that something is not going right. And I'm not even talking about Europe right now, who like where they have their own problems with energy and stuff. But like in the United States and Canada, where such problems don't exist, there's still this weird feeling of, I don't know, like lack of optimism or lack of freaking mojo. The mojo is not here. And I thought maybe that's just me, or like I'm like, because I work in the crypto industry, the crypto is down and all that. Maybe it's just like I'm just like, okay, well, the market is down. But I'm talking to other people, and they also work in fintech, not related to crypto, but yeah, they also say like we all feel that. Or even the robotics and stuff, like Silicon Valley guys, like my friends. I'm like, so what do you feel like? I'm asking like them, like, do you feel that? Is that something you feel or not? And they're all like, yes, absolutely, we're feeling that. There's just like a lack of something. Something is missing right now. And I was so kind of surprised. Like I went to Kazakhstan, and all of a sudden I have this entrepreneurial questions, the spirit, like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. Like my friend just bought a piece of land in Kazakhstan, and he quit his job at the bank, and he bought a piece of land in Kazakhstan next to the city, and he's gonna grow strawberries there, because he says like, this is it, man, I want to grow strawberries and I want to export that, I want to like sell them and all of that. He got himself like a very rare seeds and stuff from Europe or something like that, and he just wants to do that. Other people are, my other friends are in construction, and other friends are in IT industry, traveling the world and working from Kazakhstan and all of that. And there's this thing, like, and whoever I'm talking to, another friend, he is managing a chain of restaurants, not a chain of restaurants, but like several, like a portfolio of restaurants, and everyone's trying to do business, everyone's trying to do something. But in reality, like, the economic indicators in Kazakhstan are not the best. I would say they're actually pretty dire. Like, they're not looking good. Obviously, the export of oil is good, the oil price, and that's something that's still kind of supporting the currency. The currency has been devaluating, and has been devaluating slowly for the past, I would say, since 2015, and it still goes down, and that happens. But somehow people are, I don't know, I'm always like looking from the outside in Canada, and I'm like, wow, like what's happening? Kazakhstan is going down, like the currency is going down and all of that. But people are constantly adjusting to that, and they're just like, nope, this is it. We're gonna stay here. And I think just the overall, like, we have to move out kind of thing. We have to go somewhere else. We have to immigrate. I wouldn't say, I think that thing still exists. Some people, they still want to see the better world, and they want to try their luck, like yours, truly. But I feel like it's slowly dying down. So another thing that I was asking today, my friend who is a front end engineer for like a Silicon Valley company, a very famous one, very mainstream one. Like, I'm like, what do you think about Kazakhstan? I'm asking him. He's from Canada, and he's the guy who came with me basically. And he says like, yeah, man, like this is surprising. I did not expect that. I'm like, so what didn't you expect about this country? What's from your point of view? Like, what about the tech? He's like, well, he really likes the apps here, and it's just not Kaspi. He's like, there are other apps like Ashik and other ones. He's like, the apps are so good from the UX perspective, from everything. They're just so much better than a lot of apps in Canada. And I was like, well, really? Like, why is that? He's like, he thinks it's just the quality of the developers, of engineers in Kazakhstan. He legitimately told me, and he thinks that it's better than in Canada, or like what other Canadian companies or American companies are hiring, which kind of confirms the fact that my other friend, Sergey Tian, who was also a guest on my podcast back in the day, he's working for Silicon Valley companies and all of that. And, a lot of Silicon companies, well, not a lot, a handful of Silicon Valley companies outsource their engineering solutions to Kazakhstan because of their developers. And I asked him also, like, what's the other, like, differentiator in this tech world? And he said to me that developers in Kazakhstan, they're focused on the result. When the developers in the West, in the United States, and in Canada, they're focused on the process. And to be honest, quite frankly, like take it as you hear it. For whomever like understand what he means, probably will understand it. And I tried to ask like, what does that mean? And he says like just the nature of the work, the sprints, the culture of sprints, and all of that. It's just like it's different in Kazakhstan. That's what he told me. And another thing that I asked him, he has a little kid. I'm like, what else do you think? He's like, well, in Astana or Nur Sultan, this is the capital. He went there. Surprisingly, the capital of Kazakhstan, Nur Sultan, is very, very kid friendly. Like very, like surprisingly very kid friendly in terms of like the playgrounds and other things as well. So that was something that that was surprising to him, and I was surprised to hear that as well. I also asked him, being from crypto, like, does he see crypto being around in Kazakhstan sometime soon? And he said maybe like in another 5 years or something. He didn't see much of development for crypto, which I don't know. I think it's gonna be. I think crypto will be in Kazakhstan sooner. Like once it's there, it's there. So that's that. That's just like something that I saw there. This entrepreneurship and this changes. And on top of that, a little plug for tourism. It's like a hidden gem. Almaty has the lakes, the canyons, the ski resorts. It's just like, you don't understand this when you grow up in the city. You grew up like surrounded by mountains. Like imagine, I always think of Almaty like, what is this? Aspen, Colorado. Like imagine Aspen, Colorado. But a little bit bigger, I would say, and more advanced, I think. But the air is much dirtier in Almaty, but that's pretty much it. Like imagine Aspen, Colorado, with 4 seasons surrounded by mountains and ski resorts. That's Almaty, basically. Maybe, I don't know. but I feel like based on at least on the pictures, you will compare them. It's the same thing with the mountains and the ice tops and all of that. But also so much other cool things in Almaty, I would say, that for tourists. I'm not gonna dive in there. Just like open some tourism like website or something. But yeah, when you're a kid, you grow up there, you don't understand this. But now I came back there and I was like, damn, like mountains, lakes, townhouses and all of that. And like you go like to 1 hour, 1 hour to one side, you see the lake, 1 hour to the other side, you see the canyon, and 2 hours to like, the other side. And it's like ski resort. It's kind of crazy. It's, it's ridiculous. Like when you think about it, like somehow I just realized that like, whoa, like, it's a crazy town, very cool town. It's. I have another story of my American friend who came to Kazakhstan also from San Francisco with me. We met there. He's one of my best friends. He was celebrating. He met a girl there and all that. So it was like a thing there. But he was also very, very surprised, and he loved Kazakhstan, and he came with his brother too. Like they're all kind of in shock, like how great this. Again, when I say Kazakhstan, I mean Almaty. Like there's other cities there too. They're maybe not as advanced, but like anyways, 2 million people. Let's just count it as that. So that's just something. Okay, so that's the story. That's it. And so imagine me, like I'm sitting here. And I'm looking at everything, and again, like, and then, by the way, everything is like 5 times cheaper than in the United States or Canada, 5 to 7 times cheaper. So imagine me sitting there and thinking, like, wow, something is happening here, and it's connected to what's happening in the world. Kazakhstan was always like this beautiful and whatnot, like. And all of those things. Yeah, it has this Caspian stuff. That was kind of like a cool thing. But I don't think that's like not it, though. That's not the special part. The special part about Kazakhstan right now is 2 things. I would say the January event that happened in Kazakhstan, that's something that kind of refreshed it, or at least like it triggered something that is still in development of being refreshed. Whether it's going to be successful or not has yet to be seen, but this kind of like deep state kind of situation is being, I don't know, like you just feel it, like it's something is being refreshed. No one knows what's happening right now in the country, like in the higher kind of like levels, in the higher levels of power, and that's why kind of like everyone's waiting, but everyone's waiting not with fear, but with hope and with cautious hope and optimism. So I think that's the spirit right now in terms of those events. And so that's the first part. Everyone's thinking, like, everyone's looking to the future with an optimism. And the second part is, of course, the Ukrainian-Russian war and what does it mean to Kazakhstan. And just anecdotally, or not anecdotally, like some public events, Kazakhstan right now is being used, because Russia is being closed down by sanctions and all of that. Kazakhstan is being actively used. So one of the stories, like, a cell phone export to Russia from Kazakhstan increased in the past 5 months, increased by 1,000%. 1,000%. Another anecdote, all the fancy cars, the Lexuses and Mercedes and the Audis, Kazakhstan has all those kind of like dealerships there. And now there's a huge line. Like, you cannot buy a car there because all the cars are being sold to Russians, and it's being just exported to Russia through those dealerships. So that kind of like tells you what Kazakhstan is becoming. And that also shows you a complicated situation that Kazakhstan can put itself economically, but it also shows this weird and interesting opportunity that Kazakhstan has found itself in. It sort of has this feeling that, and again, the president of Kazakhstan publicly renounced any sort of self-proclaimed republics in Ukraine and all of that. So that was like a huge shocker to everybody worldwide and all of that. Right in front of Russian president, Kazakh president said like, "Oh yeah, like no, we're not doing this. We're not accepting any republics and stuff like that." So that was like a huge signal to the rest of the world that Kazakhstan is still committed to maintain this neutrality. Of course, given the fact that Kazakhstan is an ally of Russia on a lot of kind of roads and streams and all of that, but it still positions itself as a neutral state, as a state that is not trying to like take sides in the situation. It has an active channel with Ukraine and all of that. It's it tries to be friendly. And that's kind of the thing about Kazakhstan right now in Central Asia. It seems like Kazakhstan can position itself, and again, that's just my opinion. It's just something that I felt in my gut, like it can position itself as some sort of a hub. I would say international hub for trade, a neutral zone for both Europeans, Westerners, Russians, and everybody else, and Asians. Don't forget that China is to the east of Kazakhstan, literally borders China. And Kazakhstan is right in the middle of everyone, right in the middle of everything. And don't get me wrong, Europeans also like that. Like, it's not just like, you can like transport cars, fancy cars to Russia, so Russia wins from that. People who sell those cars, aka the Western companies, and that's just an example. The car thing is just an example, just to show you the concept. Based on what I've been told, like, everyone's benefiting from having Kazakhstan in the middle of everything. Obviously, there are sanctions. There's lack of trade. But people still need to make money and all of that. And that kind of sounds unethical, and I don't know what's going to happen to that. Obviously, that can raise some eyebrows, and that's where I say Kazakhstan finds itself in a peculiar situation where it cannot really side with any country, or like it cannot side with this conflict or what's all, but it also finds itself in the reality with all the citizens coming in, Russian citizens coming in, the Ukrainian refugees coming in, and the trade that is happening. And I think it's very important for Kazakhstan to maintain that balance. I think it's very difficult to maintain. But if Kazakhstan will be able to maintain that balance where the country is being friendly with the Western countries and with the neighbors to the north, with Russia and with China, and if the leadership is strong, there can be some sort of a consensus, the international consensus, to keep Kazakhstan as this kind of neutral trade zone, a neutral economic zone where things can happen and benefit everyone at the same time. And this is what that's kind of like a little nugget that I brought from that part of the world to Canada, and I cannot stop thinking about that. I cannot stop thinking, and again, that goes from like the network state with Balaji Srinivasan that I talked to talked about in my previous episodes. But that's what I'm thinking. Like something can happen in that part of the world with that sort of cautious optimism that the citizens of Kazakhstan have right now. And I'm thinking, and again, a lot of companies move to, like, you can research, I'm not saying a lot of things, but you can research how like many companies moved from Russia to Kazakhstan, how everyone, it's not just like some people, right? It's also companies. Like everyone wants to make business. Everyone tries to find workarounds. And it feels like certain people or certain countries, they are okay with looking the other way, or sort of like just saying like, okay, it's happening, like it's fine, whatever. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you never know. That's why Kazakhstan has to be careful about how they do business and how do they present themselves to the international community to maintain that stability and that neutrality and that balance. But, you know, I'm looking at my friend who bought the land, who tries to, you know, cultivate it and all of that. And Kazakhstan has so much land. There's so much development to be made. And construction is in every corner right now in Almaty. Again, I say Kazakhstan, but just imagine that I say Almaty and then just think like Kazakhstan is kind of like around it. And there's also Astana, obviously, Nur-Sultan, the capital, another big city, and, you know, the hub basically for governments and businesses. Yeah, and obviously you try to think like, okay, what can be done there? What kind of opportunity can you find there? Another funny anecdote is that you can see that real estate is going down everywhere. Russia, China, Canada, United States. But in a country like Kazakhstan, it's actually go up. And why does it go up? It's because, my father explained it to me, it's because people in Kazakhstan, they don't want, especially like the people who are on the more wealthy side, they're too afraid right now to actually move capital outside the country, because you never know what's going to happen. You see what's happening right now around the world. So they need to figure out what to do with all this money that they get right now from natural resources or whatever, their businesses, you know, just normal money, whatever, nothing shady. And so they basically just buy real estate in Kazakhstan. They buy real estate in Almaty. So yeah, the real estate right now in Almaty is going up, which is hilarious. But and again, that's something that I'm not yeah, I don't like that. I don't like this artificial inflation of the real estate just by creating all this influx of cash into real estate. And again, this is not just Kazakh citizens; it's also Russian citizens try to buy some property in Kazakhstan as well, because they need to park their cash as well somewhere. But I digress. It's just like something that's happening right now there. But at the same time, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's where I'm like, wow, like something is happening. The bottom line here, something is happening in Central Asia. And Kazakhstan can find itself in a very beneficial position if the country plays its cards right. And I think for the first time ever, I'm obviously recharged and very inspired like always, but like for the first time, I'm actually fantasizing of coming back to that country as soon as possible, you know, and try to create a business or something. It's just a fantasy. It's just like a feeling, but in my gut, I feel like something is happening in these countries, and we're not even touching on other things. You know, I only touched on like maybe some natural resources, real estate, and some freaking Kaspi application, but there's so much more there. Tourism, for example, is crazy right now. Tourism is not. It's kind of funny because tourism is being discovered by people in Kazakhstan itself, because we never did tourism. We would go to like the mountains, but now all these lakes. There's even like a shooting range. Like who would have thought? Like, or like bike paths and stuff like that. There's so many things right now there, and sooner or later, tourism is going to go up as well, especially with all these Russians are being, I don't know, like not allowed to go to other countries and stuff. So again, that's just the reality. That's just the reality of things, but that's just the fact, and yeah, you think about yourself, you know, you think, well, I'm from that country. I have so many friends there. I have so many connections there. I have so many family members there. And And it's just like, wow, what if I'll go there and I do something there? What if I'll go and create? It's just a playground for creativity. Imagine if you have access to capital and you can do something on your own there. So that's something that I said I'm going to be hyping up. So there you go. I just hyped up this whole thing. That's kind of like my emotions right now. Now, what are the risks? The risks, I think, is just, again, one wrong move, one wrong phrase by, I feel like, someone higher up publicly, and Kazakhstan can become like a part of those sanctions and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it's all going down. So yes, it's great. Everything is fine, but someone has to like strong arm this whole narrative and make sure that Kazakhstan is being respected by all players, international community, and not just one side. And that's, I think, it's a very complicated task to achieve. But if it can be maintained, then I have a feeling Kazakhstan can become a Singapore of Central Asia. And the most important asset, I feel like, of the country is not its natural resources, but its people. And what I'm seeing right now in people is more kindness. And I think that's because of the January events. Everyone realized like how quickly everything can go down. And people are just kinder. They're more relaxed. And as I said, like less police, less like stop and frisk situation. Really, like I felt secure. Like I was walking down the streets and all of that. I felt secure like during nighttime. More culture, more respect, and just this cautious optimism. I don't think I missed anything, but I've been thinking about this episode for a long time to record it ever since I was in Kazakhstan, and I hope I don't know. I hope I kind of conveyed my feelings. Again, this is not to like tell you like, oh, like go there and do something about it. But if you are interested, like check it out and go visit it. You know, you never know when's the next time you will be able to go like listen to a podcast, get inspired, and go visit a country. So I definitely recommend to visit it. I'd recommend all my coworkers and friends to go visit it because I just had so much fun. One of my best parts is just like the hookah in Kazakhstan. You know, the shisha is just so good. You know, Canada, United States, they don't have this like restaurant type shisha places where you can have nice tea, nice shisha, nice kebabs, and like any kind of food. Actually, very nice food, and it's especially if you're a tourist from like a Western country. Like, damn, like can you imagine going to Hawaii and everything's so expensive? Well, you can go to Kazakhstan and everything is 5 times more beautiful. And well, maybe I don't know. I've never been to Hawaii, but it's like 10 times more cheaper, and the food is natural, delicious, yum. Anyways, I don't know. It's my country. What can I say? But who knows? Maybe I'll go back there. What a I don't know. What a pivot of events. If someone would tell me like 10 years ago that I would be saying this thing, it was like, whoa. Because for those of you who are day one, you know, like all my God and spirit and all my being was about like coming to like this frontier to the west to like conquer this continent and all of that. And I feel like, I don't know, there's nothing left to conquer here. You know, there's nothing left to achieve. I mean, you obviously can do like a business and startup and venture capitalism, but it's just so weird. You go to a country like Kazakhstan or any other like Central Asian country or developing world country, and all of a sudden you see this freedom. You see this freedom to create. You see this freedom to develop. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say, like, obviously there's corruption, obviously, and it's everywhere, and you have to like know what you're doing, and it's not going to be the same as the United States and all that. I completely understand that, and it's not going to go away in a day. So absolutely, if you want to have a business in Kazakhstan or invest there, like, think twice and definitely find someone that you can trust, because if you're some sort of a white guy from the United States, people will try to steal your money. You know, just that's just how it goes. So not to speak badly, but I'm just saying, like, hey, just like have a consultant or something. Anyways, that was my little spiel, my little I don't know, essay about the country and my experience. Follow me on Twitter and maybe drop a comment, or on LinkedIn. Let me know what you think. Or maybe some sort of email me or something like that, azizipodcast@gmail.com. My Instagram is @AZZADOUB BLEZI, same as Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have learned something new from this episode. Thank you very much. This was Samir Azizi for Azizi Podcast, everybody. Thank you.